Welcome to Revitalize and Replant with Mark Clifton, where we equip pastors to take their churches from declining to thriving by pointing them to a new future and a new hope. Join us weekly for encouragement and practical advice in your pastoring journey. And we are back with another session that is going to be raw, as it was last time. Here we are with Revitalize and Replant with Mark Clifton. There's Mark Hallock. I'm Dan
when
Hurst.
my boy was young,
What did you just do to the mic?
I just knocked the mic over. He used to like to watch Monday Night Raw. Do you guys ever watch Monday Night Raw?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Wrestling?
Remember
that?
Oh, yeah.
I do.
Is it still on? I think it's still around.
Is it? I don't know. But we would go to we lived in this little town called Wamego, Kansas, and we would go to the little grocery store there, and they had this couple of aisles of videos you could rent. And my boys had rented every wrestling video twice or three times, and they loved the Raw videos. So every time you said this is going to be Raw, all I can think of is all I can think of is Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
And remember Butterbean?
Oh, yeah.
Remember Butterbean, the big fat guy?
Yeah.
Butterbean actually boxed.
He was a boxer.
He went into boxing.
He got into boxing.
He's the guy that would eat the turnbuckle.
That's right.
Remember that? He would eat
George
the
the
turnbuckle.
Animal Steel.
George the Animal Steel.
Oh, I thought Butterbean would. Maybe it was.
Butterbean was a boxer. They looked the same.
Is that
Butterbean
it?
was a short, fat, bald guy.
Yeah.
George the Animal Steel was bald, big, hairy.
Yeah.
Had a green tongue, and he'd eat the thing. He was crazy.
Oh,
That was back in the day, like Junkyard Dog and all those guys.
Yoko Ono, remember him?
Oh,
the
he
great
was-
big guy.
What
he
is
was
it with
huge.
you guys?
He was huge.
We're here with a podcast to encourage pastors. You guys,
Well, I'm just saying today guys are into MMA.
Yeah.
And
I bet you most of these guys listening, though, man,
But I'm telling you.
some of them are fans of
I'll
wrestling.
tell you what, MMA, whatever, it's fake, but wrestling was real.
Oh, yeah.
That's right. It was real.
Yeah, it was real.
Tell me otherwise.
all right.
All right.
Okay.
Last time we were together, how do I make this transition? This is why you guys pay me the big bucks.
Jake the Snake.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
for
right.
crying out loud.
I do.
Macho Man Savage. Okay, I'll be done. All right.
So we were talking about the factors, the 10, this is Chuck Lawless article about the 10 factors or 8 factors, whatever it is, that help long-term pastors stay at their church. That was something that he had written. But he also wrote something about indications that a pastor of a declining church may have stayed too long. And so we got to talking about what are some of those factors that you deal with when you feel like maybe you've stayed too long. Have you actually stayed too long? What are some of the symptoms? And the first 4 that we talked about was the church is in continual decline, and the pastor blames the congregation. The pastor no longer has a vision for the church. He's in survival mode. Yep. If anyone would offer the pastor a new job, he'd probably take it.
I think that's all we. I think that's all we covered.
Oh,
last
okay.
time.
And so now we're picking up with we said we're going to shift gears and talk a little bit about the congregation. Mm-hmm. And so this 4th point is really kind of kicks off what we want to address today, and that is the church seems to have lost any sense of passion for what they do. Mm-hmm. I mean, when you came to that church as a pastor, they had passion. Or at least you thought they did.
Yeah, you think about coaching in the NFL or in the NHL, either one, or I guess Major League Baseball too, everything. Sometimes the coach comes in and man, he lights a fire on that team, right? Yep. And I mean, it is gangbusters. And then he doesn't really change, but 5, 8, 10 years later, he doesn't have the same. It just doesn't work like it did before. Yeah. And that they no longer hear him the way they heard him before. I can't explain it. But there are some situations where the church just loses its passion. Mm-hmm. And again, if you blame the church, as we said in the previous podcast, that's not the answer. And so how do I know if I've stayed too long? Dude, if the church has lost its passion for what, and there's a decline that continues, and nobody wants to make any steps toward change, again, the point of this podcast is not to leap coals on your head. But if you've been the pastor there for 10 years, and the church has lost its passion? Yeah. Mark, talk about that.
Yeah. As you're talking, I think about this time of year is the college football coaching carousel, right?
Yeah, right.
And you see all these guys leaving one place or going to a new pro, and everybody's pumped. You know what I mean? They're pumped. Everybody. Mm-hmm. But I think about the coaches that are leaving these schools. There was a day where that was true.
That's right.
And over time. And I think part of this is just being honest. I think sometimes we find our identity far too much in being pastor of this church. And so when the reality is this is the Lord's church, we're all interims. Some of us just stay a little longer than others.
Say that again.
We're all interim pastors,
That's right.
all of us. Some just stay a little longer than others, some maybe 20 years. But I think we've got to hold it loosely. And I think this is one of those areas. I'm really glad Lawless says this, actually, in love, to say, listen, it's not that you're a bad pastor. It's not. It's just, it's time.
It's time.
It's just time.
Paul, the scripture says, Paul said, some plant and
That's right.
Apollos
That's
planted
right.
and watered, and it'd be nice if I could actually memorize scripture.
Yeah.
That would be. I might need to take a course.
We're following.
I should probably take a course on that. But you know what I'm getting at,
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
And so it is about Christ. It's about His church. It's not about us. And He may have you there for a season. And you're very important in that season, but when that season's over, it's time for you to leave.
It's time, yeah.
And if the church has lost all of its passion and all of its vision, and you keep staying there year after year after year, I mean, something's wrong with that picture.
Well, and I wonder, and I don't know if we get to this or not, or let's say that's a good analogy. You were there to lead through a particular season, but you don't have the gifting, the passion, and it's okay to lead into the next season
That's right.
where the church needs to go,
that's right.
where somebody else does. And I think,
and by the way, I've been there. I've been in that kind of
Yeah,
a situation. I was at Elm Spring. It was that kind of a situation. I'd gone there. I felt like God had led me there. The church grew. Things really went well. And I finally realized, and it wasn't that the church had lost passion. It was time for me to move on
Yeah,
because
that's
they
right.
needed somebody different.
That's right.
I wasn't the guy that could take them to the next
well,
level.
Clifton, wouldn't you say, I mean, this has
Well,
been
that's
your
me.
story in many ways. You're a starter. Like, you
Yeah.
think about all these churches like you've planted
Yeah.
or helped. I mean, wouldn't you agree with that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, if I had a whiteboard here, what I normally do is
I mean, look at Warnell, for instance.
Yeah, look at Warnell.
Yeah.
Well, or look at Linwood.
Yeah, same thing.
In any place. And every time I leave a place, it gets better.
Wait.
No, here's the reality. Is I think it ties into what we're talking about. You're your gift mix.
Well, like I said, if I had a whiteboard right here, let's all pretend we're looking at a whiteboard, all right? And I would take a marker and I would just put a bunch of squiggles on that whiteboard, just 8 or 9 little squiggly lines, not in any just random. That's my giftedness. Has been to just take what's nothing there and bring something there.
That's
just,
right.
That was Warnell or Linwood or the churches that we planted in the past up in Canada or here in Kansas City. And man, there was nothing there, and the Lord just kind of used me and some vision and some passion, and we brought together something.
Yeah.
But it needs another guy to take all those squiggly lines and put them in and make them into some order.
Good word.
And so,
Yep,
I would
that's right.
erase, if I were here, if you were watching me, I would erase the whiteboard with the squiggly lines, and I would put straight lines going, in a pattern.
In a pattern, in order. Yeah.
Because somebody has to put that stuff into a pattern or it's going to fall apart.
That's right.
And so I always understood that my giftedness was to kind of get it going and bring something together, but there had to be somebody to come along and put it into a pattern. That happened every place I was. And again, you mentioned Warnell. Man, it's 2 or 3 times larger than when I was there. And the structure is so much stronger and so much better because that's what that guy's gifted at. And even at Linwood, same thing. I've been gone now for 3 years, and Howie's done a great job of putting order and structure to it that he can build upon. And when you understand your giftedness, you don't feel bad about that.
That's right.
I'm not the
Exactly.
long-term guy
Yep,
here, all
that's
right?
right.
It's okay. I've got this role, and I'm comfortable with that, and I understand that. And so I think it's important to know that.
Good. That's really good.
Did you understand all the squiggly line stuff?
Oh yeah, no, it makes
Good,
sense.
'cause I felt like I was
no, you're
struggling
good. I was
with that.
following it. I was following
I
it.
probably need somebody to come
The
in and help me
squiggly-
with that. They could do a better job than me. But
No, that's good. That's good.
Well, let's go on with this then. That if the church has lost its passion, and you're thinking, well, maybe that's the issue. What are the reasons for that? And one of those, as Lawless points out, is that the only people left in the church are long-termers who will die as members of the church.
oh, man, when those of us in this room that work with declining churches, we often go to dying churches, and all that are left are people. Look, I shouldn't say this, but it's kind of like they could have Joseph Stalin as their pastor, and they're not going anywhere. I mean, this is it doesn't matter. We could come together and read out of the Webster's Dictionary.
Yeah.
We're not leaving. This is my church, and I'm not going anywhere, and I'm going to die here.
We're going to outlive you anyway,
and that's
Pastor.
all they've
Yeah, that's
got
right.
left is
Yeah.
people who are not committed to the gospel necessarily, not committed to the community, not committed to the vision of Jesus. They're just committed to that particular location.
What do you
that
do?
particular
Okay, so let me
building.
lean in. Let me ask the question. What do you do if you're the pastor who just came to the church and you realize what you just described is what you're looking at for the most part when you're preaching on Sundays.
Like we said, the first thing you got to do is you got to get their hearts to warm back to the gospel. They got to learn to love Jesus more than the church that they are experiencing, more than that building and their corporate history and all the nostalgia of all of that and the routine of all of that. We got to remember that for older people in a very transient culture, going to that same place and that same routine becomes very much an idol for them. And you've got to help them lay down that idol and embrace Jesus only. So if they're truly regenerate, you got to help their hearts to warm back to the gospel so they'll want what Jesus wants. It's quite a long process, but that's how you do it. But oftentimes, if you look at a church and all that's left are people, they're just there because they're going to die there, there's no future there at all. And we won't get into it in detail, but our friend here, Dan, who said he had a lady who said she visited a church near her home. Go ahead.
Yeah, and she wanted to make the move because she was traveling so far to come to my church, and I said, by all means, and she's just a sweetheart. It's one of those people you don't want to leave.
Yeah.
But I understood the situation; it was just too far for her to travel. I said, find a place near you. So she went to visit this church, and Clifton and I both know this church, know it well. And she said, I think I might go to that. She said, that's a great church. Go, check it out. I said, I wouldn't hesitate at all to go visit. She went to visit it, and she called me later, and she says, I went to visit, and she said, I was thinking about joining, and the pastor came to me, and he said, you probably don't want to join this church because we're probably going to close.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. Because all that was left were just the older members who were there waiting. In other words, we're not closing now because there's no place for these older members to go.
But it's
so
common.
we're doing a hospice.
Yeah, that's right.
So this is not a church you want to join.
Yeah.
Because we're just going to hang on here till these people either pass away or move away. I can't close it now because they would have nowhere else to go. Look, brothers, I would like to tell you that is a rare experience. It is not a rare experience. Some of you listening to me, that is a church you are pastoring. All right. And the only people left are people who are going to, and they're not going to leave until they die. And that gets into that situation where why are you even there? What's your purpose? And so again, if you have a church where that's the case, maybe you've stayed too long. All right.
And certainly one of the symptoms of that is that you find that the church is not only declining in numbers, it's declining in finances. And so now
this is
everything
number 6, yeah.
And so now it's just all about we got to pay these bills.
Because what happens is when people pass away, generally speaking, they quit tithing. I mean, that's just, that's been my experience.
Generally.
My experience is that,
Isn't it interesting they quit tithing, but they don't quit voting?
They do keep voting.
I know, that's the amazing thing to me.
Amazing thing. No, they do. And so, we kind of joke about that, but you've got a declining church and you've got some older members who probably give the tithe and above, right? They do, and they give to the missions offering. They're very generous. Well, they pass away, that quits. And you're not reaching any new people. And all of a sudden, the money becomes less and less, and the expenses up and up. And now you've switched from how do we grow the church, how do we reach the community, to basically how do we keep the bills paid.
Yeah.
So, dude, when you're dealing with a church where the remaining members are just there because they're not going to go anywhere till they die, and when you're dealing with the church that basically we're just trying to hang on and get the bills paid, and you've got no passion, no vision, you probably stayed too long.
It's time. Yep.
And again, we're not trying to be hurtful. We're just trying to be helpful.
Yeah.
You and your family would be you'd be blessed even if it meant getting a secular job, which there's nothing wrong with a secular job. I've had secular jobs. Yeah. I've not been very good at them, but I've had them. and you have to do what you have to do.
That's right.
And you'll find more meaning in that, actually.
And that actually becomes part of your ministry, too.
It does.
That has to happen. But, what happens then, and the next step is, as Lawless points out here, is that you find yourself, there's this chasm between you and the congregation, and it's kind of like us versus them or me versus them, that type of thing. And it's your family versus the rest of the church.
Yeah, and when things aren't going well at the church, you don't want to hang out with those people.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't really want to spend time with them.
Yep.
When things are going well,
Yeah.
they are your family.
That's right.
Talk
That's right.
about that, Mark.
Oh, man, yeah. I mean, when things are going well, and this is how you just know, man, you want to be with them. You don't want to just be locked away in your office. That's a sure sign that things aren't going well, right?
Yeah.
But you want to be with them. You want to show up to games. You want to love on the people. You want to encourage them. You look forward to it. Even when it's hard, there's such a joy in that. But I'll tell you what, this is a big one because I think, again, if you find yourself wanting to spend more time away from the church than with the church. That's pretty telling. Because
By
you're
the
the
church,
shepherd.
you're talking about the people.
I'm talking about the people. Yeah, I'm talking about the people. Because you're called to be a shepherd. Shepherds want to be with the sheep. They love the sheep. And if you don't really love the sheep much anymore, that's a problem.
Yeah, if you'd rather not be around them,
Yeah.
and can you avoid them?
Yeah, can I avoid them? This is not rocket science.
Right.
That should make you go, this is a red flag.
Like when a church member calls, I don't want to take the call. Yeah. If I see them at a grocery store, I walk down the other aisle. Some of you know who I'm talking to. Yeah. And again, I get it. There'll be a day or two when you just don't have the bandwidth to deal with somebody's chronic problems again, and you don't want to hear the same. And you may slip over to the frozen food aisle to kind of miss it once in a while. But if it's a pattern where you're just, I don't want to hang out with these people. I don't want them into my house. I don't want to go eat out with them. Mm-hmm. I don't want to hang out after church and talk to them. I just want to get home.
Yep.
Dude, that is a problem.
And here's the thing, they feel it.
Don't
and
they
know it.
Oh, they absolutely.
They may not say anything to your face, but they know it. They can tell when pastor's not around again after
and
church.
they talk.
And they talk, that's right.
Yeah.
And it's when ministry's not going well. Let's be honest. The church is in decline. Finances are hard. And you just don't want to deal with it. People are going to complain. They're going to gripe about it. And you don't want to hear it. So you just don't want to hang out with them. Yeah. And that's not going to make the problem go away.
No. That's
and
right.
it's an indication you probably stayed too long.
Yeah, that's
All
right.
Number 8.
Last one.
Man, this is kind of like the Messiah complex, that we take on sometimes. This idea like it's all me. It's the Elijah complex is what I call it. I am the only one left. That sort of thing. But most of us, and we use this term a lot. Not on my watch. Not on my watch. Yeah. But what about if the pastor is willing to let the church die on his watch?
Yeah. The pastor is willing to let the church die. You hope that won't be the case, and you've seen it happen. But as Lawless says, I've seen it happen. The pastor actually guides the ship to death. He takes the congregation to the very end. Now,
and he says, and blames the congregation
all the way.
All the way.
Yeah. It's not my fault.
Yeah, this isn't like you're coming in. It's a unique situation where a church needs to be,
and you're gonna close it down and start something new.
That's right. That's not this.
Mm-mm.
This is, man. I'm just gonna. Literally, he says the pastor guides the ship to its death and blames the congregation all the way.
I'm gonna ride this dinosaur till she drops.
Till she drops.
All right, I'm gonna take every dollar I can out of her, and every paycheck I can get, and we're just gonna ride this thing to the very end. Man. And all the way, I'm gonna say it's not my fault.
That's right.
It's not my fault. Yep. I got to tell you, dudes, I've heard this so many times. So many times. I'm thinking of a church now that seated about 700 people. And over the years, it declined. And they contacted me. It was about 8 or 9 years ago. And I was very familiar with the church. And I went to it. And they weren't meeting in a sanctuary. They were meeting in a Sunday school class, a Sunday school gathering space in the old education building. And there were about 40 of them left, all of them elderly. And the pastor he'd lost all vision. He'd lost all hope. But he was hanging on. He was still there. And he told me afterward, he said, I'm just going to stay here till this thing dies because these people just won't do anything. And he blamed the people. But he was going to hang on, almost like they owed this to him. This is my job. I'm not giving up my paycheck, and I'll just stay with them. But they're going to die because I can't get them to make any changes. Dude, you need to leave.
Yeah.
All right? God's not going to honor that. He's not going to honor that. There is a time. Your job may be to bring them to closure in order that something new can be planted.
Right, which is totally different.
Totally different. Yep. But if you're just going to ride this thing till she drops and then you're going to all right, are you ready for this? We've seen this too. Guys, I have seen it all. Guys look at that and they go, you know what? They got $100,000 left in the bank. And if this thing closes with $100,000, maybe I've seen it. I'm not telling any of you guys have done this. Nobody who listens to this podcast has done this, but I've had pastors who've done this. They get to the very end, and it's almost like elder abuse. They've been able to manipulate these older people, and they convince them, if you'll give me this money, I'm going to go plant a church someplace. And they will give that pastor sometimes the remaining money, and he doesn't really go plant a church. It doesn't really work out. I've seen that. Guys, I'm not dreaming that. I've seen that happen. Yeah. And so the guy realizes, this church is going to die, but they still got some money, and I don't, as long as they got some money.
I could use that
I could use some of that money. I could do. it's a terrible situation. So if you know that church is going to die, and you're not passionate about it, you don't want to turn it around, and you blame the people in there, it's time to leave.
It's time.
So we're going to put these things in the show notes, all these lawless things. They're really good, and we want you to look at them and pray about them. And guys, God's got to... Look, we say this all the time in our team, right? Jesus has a plan for every church.
That's
so
right.
Let me tell you this. Jesus has a plan for every pastor.
Amen.
All right?
That's right.
He has a plan for your life.
Yes.
Right? You need to submit to his authority. Submit to him. Don't push against it. Don't try to create your own job. Don't try to create your own path. Trust him. Let his path's the best path. All right?
Amen. Yes.
He's got a plan for your church. He's got a plan for you.
That's right.
And again, every pastor is a temporary pastor, and you're there for a season. And when that season is over, you need to, and how do I know when it's over? I think basically when these things we just said.
Yeah.
I can't get any better than this.
Yeah.
You've lost your passion for the church. You've lost your vision. You don't want to hang out with the people. You blame the church. You're just hanging on to try to save the money. Dude, you got to come to grips with it. And either God's got to put a brand new passion in your heart and just light you on fire in love for him again, or you got to find someplace else to go, or maybe it's even a time to take a break from vocational ministry for a while.
And that's okay.
And it's okay. And recalibrate yourself. And take some time. And, the idea that I've always got to be in vocational ministry, I don't know that that's anywhere in the Scripture. You're always called to be a minister. I don't deny that at all.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean you're called necessarily to be paid for it. I mean, right?
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
That's right.
All right.
We wrap this up with,
It's
and it
easy
just
for me to say.
Well,
I'm being paid for it.
Yeah, something just occurred to me when you said that about pastors going through that transition, and sometimes it's time to take a break. And I was thinking back. In my ministry, there always seems to be, I don't know why it is, but there always seems to be about 3 pastors, somewhere around 3 or 4 pastors that do what I call coming to sit and soak.
In your church.
And they're not there. They're there because they either got fired or they've left willingly or whatever the reason may be, and they just need a time to heal. And so I found that to be part of our ministry, to help them sit and soak. And it's great to watch that happen, because when it happens correctly, then that pastor goes on to greater things. Yep. And maybe you're that pastor too that needs to sit and soak for a while, because God wants to prepare you and heal you for greater things.
And by the way, guys, if this has really impacted you, and you think this is who you are, this is your situation, no judgment from us on this point. You call us. You can check us out. You can do replant@nam.net and email us and say, I need to talk to somebody. And Mark or myself or Dan or Kyle, we'll call you and we'll pray with you. And there is no judgment, dude. We're not here to judge you.
That's right.
At all.
No, because we've been there.
We've been there.
That's
and we're
right.
just here to pray with you and to love you and help you make the choice Jesus wants you to make. This is not a judgmental thing. It's not a matter of who's a good pastor and who's not a good pastor. Yeah. You can grow a church and be a lousy pastor. You can grow a church and have no character whatsoever. I mean, you can't grow a biblical church, but you can grow a crowd, right?
That's right?
From the outside, it look like you're successful. So we're not caught up in that. And we've all been in these situations where we need to make some changes, we need to move, and God has something else for us. Yep. So no judgment. And you need some help, replant@nam.net and say, man, I need some help. And one of us will contact you and call you, and we'll pray with you on the phone. We'll talk to you. We'll love you.
Good word.
No judgment, all right? Good enough.
Thanks for joining us today on Revitalize and Replant. This podcast is brought to you by the North American Mission Board, where we help dying or struggling churches regain health for the glory of God and the good of their communities. If you found this conversation helpful, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform. To learn more about becoming a replanting pastor or to explore resources about revitalization for your own church, visit churchreplanters.com.